Hey guys, welcome to the Old Wise Men. Today we're going to be talking about marriage. We're going to talk about my marriage and what do I do in my marriage to have unselfish concern for my wife so that she will love me. So if I show her unselfish concern, what's she going to show me back? So I just wanted to share a few things that I do every day in my marriage and a story about one of our, let's say, moments in time where we had a little bit of an argument in New York. I'll share that story in a little bit, but I just wanted to talk about how do I start my day. You know, I start my day off with my prayer journal every morning, and I just go before God, and I have a couple of verses. I start with Psalm 51, 1 through 3, and I kind of want to read it to you. Have mercy upon me, O God, according to your loving kindness, according to the multitude of your tender mercies. Blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgression, and my sin is always before me. So I start my day off reading my verses that I have in my prayer journal, and it helps me get my day started, refreshing who I am in front of the cross every morning. So it's a way that I start with these verses, and I just ask God, you know, have mercy upon me. And it's focused to me. Rob, what are you doing? What can you do better in your marriage? And so we were in New York. Cheyenne was coming back from the Holy Lands. She had done a stint over there, and we were meeting up with her in New York. And also, I believe we were with Ryan Rice and his wife, and we were going to the museum, Ground Zero Museum. And we were going to take measurements on the Ground Zero cross because we were going to make a replica of that cross for North Valley Community Church. But in the midst of that, you know, we were sightseeing, and I believe it was Sunday. There was a church literally right across the street from our hotel. And I wanted to go to church, and I was so excited about it. I said, hey, Lisa, Cheyenne, let's go to church. And so we walked into church, and Lisa and Cheyenne wanted to go shopping. And I'm thinking like, well, no, we need to be in church. And we're in New York. Okay, guys, so seriously, we're in New York. I've got my wife and my daughter. Cheyenne just got back from Israel, and I want to go to church and they want to go shopping. So how does that work? So that was the start of it. You know, we kind of like we're at odds, and it just, you know how you get in those kind of arguments with your spouse and just kind of like, you know, it's on the edge and it just kind of stays there. It doesn't go anywhere. And it just kept getting worse. And we went on a bike ride and we rented bikes and we couldn't get the bikes to work, and it was raining, and it was just one of those vacations that just everything's kind of just like, it was going downhill. And it didn't get any better. But anyway, we made the best of it as best you can make under those situations with a disagreement with your spouse that doesn't go away. So we left New York, and then we went to Encinitas, California, where we spend time with our family, and we get all the family together. But Lisa and I went there ahead of time, and we got moved in, and my first morning on the deck, and what do? I pull out my prayer journal, right? And I read my verse, have mercy upon me, O God. But here it was different this time. You ever read a verse where you just kind of read through it and it doesn't affect your heart? It doesn't affect you in any way. You just kind of blow through the verse. Well, that's what I was doing until Encinitas that morning on that deck. And God he just hit me right between the eyes. And I read this verse this way. Have mercy upon me, O God, Rob, according to your loving kindness, according to the multitude of your tender mercies. Blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is always before me. And I highlighted it. See my highlights? I did this in Encinitas, all the highlights. And God spoke to Rob, you're the cause of this fight. Get over it. You need to go apologize to your wife. And so I remember walking on the beach and grabbing Lisa's hand, and I just told her, I said, Lisa, you just got to forgive me for just kind of carrying this stupid fight all the way from New York. And you know what's amazing about asking for forgiveness from your spouse is you know what? They're going to give it to you. And Lisa was so gracious that morning. She just grabbed my hand and she said, Rob, I forgive you. And it was just that. And at that moment, it just went away. Psalm 139, 23 through 24. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxieties and see if there's any wicked way in me and lead me in the way of everlasting. So when I read these verses and when God really talks to me, do I need to go apologize to Lisa? Do I need to apologize to Dusty or to Cheyenne or to anyone else that I've hurt and I've done wrong to? I want to read a couple verses to you. This one in Ephesians. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her. Listen to this, guys. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ also loved the church. That's impossible to do. But God calls us to love our wives like Christ loved the church. You know, us guys, we have a tendency to want to look at our wives' verse. You know, wives, subject yourselves to your husband. Forget that verse, guys. That's none of your beeswax. That's her verse. You need to pay attention to your verse. God gave you this verse to love your wives like Christ loved the church, and that's what we're called to do. And if we read his word and it penetrates our heart, we're going to ask for forgiveness when we do stupid stuff, aren't we? You know, Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy, is not boastful, is not conceited, does not act improperly, is not selfish, is not provoked, and does not keep record of wrongs. That's huge. Does not keep record of wrongs. Love finds no joy in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. Guys, pick up your Bible, read it, do what it says, and you'll have a better marriage. See you next time for the rest of the story.